In a neighborhood near Chattanooga, Tennessee, one home really stands out.
This pile of Amazon boxes has been growing for months.
I'm wondering why your kid's college fund isn't funded. Well, you're driving it.
It's no secret that Americans are the world's largest consumers of, well, stuff. Everything from toenail clippers to electric scooters to those $11 pink Starbucks drinks. But what few understand is it doesn't end at debt-fueled shopping sprees and buying the latest vehicle. It gets much uglier than that. The average American household contains over 300,000 individual items. To put that into perspective, that's about 10 times the average Major League Baseball game attendance from last year. We have so much stuff, in fact, that the US self-storage market is projected to reach $51 billion by 2030, an industry that's practically non-existent in other countries. So why do Americans have so many damn things? Picture America in the roaring 1920s. Booming industry, jazz, gambling, smoking crack. Okay, maybe not smoking crack, mostly tobacco actually. Americans could walk into a store and purchase a new radio or go to a dealership and buy a shiny new car without having all the cash up front. How? The introduction of installment credit.
Even though the new middle class had more disposable income than ever before, some products were still too expensive for many people to buy.
About 60% of all furniture and 75% of all radios were purchased through installment plans in the next 10 years. This gave a significant freedom to the average American, who could now afford luxuries that were once reserved only for the wealthy. But there was a hidden cost to this changing economy. The culture of buy now, pay later, which you might recognize signs of in today's economy, marked a dramatic shift from the old values of thrifting and saving to these new values of borrowing and spending. As more Americans normalized taking on debt, the nation's household finances became pretty stretched, a factor that would play a major role in the economic crash at the end of the decade. So how does this relate to the problem of having too much stuff? Well, I'm getting there. But there's something that you need to understand first. Debt wasn't the only thing that contributed to the economic shift that defined America. It also had a lot to do with marketing your product.
This was an ad? I gotta drive? I'm gonna guess. Nah, what are you doing on the pipe, bro? Where are you going?
Just as installment plans made it easier to buy, advertising made people want to buy. In this same time period, ads began flooding billboards, newspapers, and radios. And they didn't just sell products, they sold lifestyles, status, and even happiness. Take this ad, for example. I mean, come on, seriously? Suddenly, what you owned wasn't just about utility. It became a statement about who you were or what you aspired to be. So as you can see, advertisers really tapped into people's dreams and insecurities even. Owning the latest gadgets wasn't just convenient, it was about fitting in and getting ahead. This clever messaging might just be the driving factor that turned consumption into a core part of American identity. I'll let you decide if that's true or not. So while installment credit put luxury within reach, this devious way of advertising convinced Americans that these items were not just nice to have, they were a necessity for happiness and belonging. Together, these two forces convinced Americans to think differently about money, stuff, and ultimately themselves. But most importantly, the stuff. It's a new day. We can see bits and pieces of the Roaring '20s today all over our society. Many items are picked off the shelves by shoppers for pleasure-based reasons and not actual necessity. The average American shopper in 2024 spent $281 per month on impulse purchases. Of course, a reason for this could be the rise of shopping online, which has made it easier than ever for anyone to buy anything. So there's record high consumer debt in the United States, and it's reaching over $18 trillion, a portion of which is directly derived from irresponsible purchases made on credit. You know, I think it's fair to call burrito debt irresponsible. Even if you aren't financing your food, getting into various debt in America can definitely cost you. Let's get off debt for a second though and go back to impulse purchases. Unplanned purchases like this have the highest likelihood of being used for maybe a few days and then collecting dust in your house until they're thrown away. Okay, so impulse purchases are one reason why American households are crammed with stuff. Another reason comes from a more unlikely source. Food.
The overall idea behind this kind of business is to keep prices as low as possible so they can sell as much stuff as possible. And you can see how they're kind of pushing for that to happen by selling most of their stuff in these absurdly large quantities.
Over the last 40 years or so, Costco and Sam's Club have become extremely popular among Americans. And these stores are built off of one idea. You buy more, you save more. But here's the thing. Most American households don't have the space for all that extra food, especially if you're living in an apartment. Even though the average US kitchen has nearly doubled in size since those roaring 20s, when you add all those big boxes of stuff, well, you're back to the same size, maybe even smaller. Okay, so we've established two factors of the great American stuff addiction. There are many other factors that influence the clutter in American households, but I'd rather just get to the main point here. Why does any of this even matter for me or you? For one, all this stuff isn't just taking up space in the homes. It's taking up space in the minds of people who live there. Research shows that cluttered environments can really impact our mental health. Living in a home with a lot of stuff increases stress, anxiety, and even feelings of shame or embarrassment. Generally, our brains crave order, and when you're around all this stuff all the time, it's harder to relax and even harder to focus. In fact, studies have shown that people living in these homes have a higher amount of the stress hormone cortisol and are more likely to experience symptoms of depression. If that's not bad enough, when we finally decide to get rid of all this extra stuff, whether it be expired food or old clothes, it has to go somewhere. And in the United States, the average person throws away about 4.5 pounds of trash every day. Altogether, that adds up to about 268 million tons of trash being thrown away every year, a lot of which ends up in oceans and landfills. Only about 1/3 of what we toss actually gets recycled. The rest just ends up in these landfills that are running out of space pretty quickly. Okay, so now we know that America has this addiction to stuff, maybe a bit of a stuff problem. So how can we fix it? My first suggestion is to donate every single thing you have to charity. Well, obviously we could start stockpiling less stuff. However, it will take a lot of collective effort to reverse the decades of propaganda that America has been exposed to. A good idea is to start small. Maybe donate a little bit of your closet, or start recycling. Don't buy 200 eggs unless you're Brian Shaw.
And I love eggs. Love them. I eat a lot of eggs.
And that's the story of how America got hooked on stuff, why it matters, and what we can do about it. If you learned something from this video, or maybe just found it entertaining, please consider liking and subscribing. Remember, the stuff you do actually matters. Stuff. That's about it. Sayonara.